Chicken wings again.
Nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down. My brothers on the ground, I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me.
Your Bluetooth off your phone.
Hi, Rhoda. Welcome to the Scottish Rugby World Podcast. I'm your host tonight, John Anderson, filling in for Cammy. We've got a fairly action-packed programme tonight. Lots of news, lots of things to cover. And also, there might be the small matter, some European games that we might want to talk about. Don't know, Craig, what do you think?
Oh, I think we'll talk about it.
You sure? Okay, if you insist. Don't say I'm not good to you. So obviously I'm John Anderson. Joining us tonight, we've got Craig.
Hello all.
And we've got Johnny McGinty.
Evening.
And we've got the shadow of Ian Hay plus an echo.
Hello, yes. The settings on my StreamYard had gone to the laptop microphone. It should be fine now. Should just be the headset. Hello.
We can hear you loud and proud now, Ian. Thank you.
Excellent, fantastic.
Excellent.
So you can't hear Sky Atlantic. Good.
We cannot. No. What's
I turned the telly off. No, it's just we had Game of Thrones on. Well,
nice.
Finishing really watching Bob's
We were preparing for the podcast with some nice gratuitous violence.
Yes, dragons, or as Ian McShane called it. I don't know if I can say the first one because it's rude.
No, don't say it yet. No, 9 o'clock, bud. 9 o'clock.
Ruder word for boobies and dragons.
Right, we'll get all the sales pitch out the road just now. You'll see the banner at the bottom if you're watching this live. If you're on audio, you will not. Head over to ScottishRugbyBlog.com to see all the content over there. If you fancy supporting the podcast, head over to patreon.com/ScottishRugbyPodcast. You can subscribe there, get exclusive content, including our weekly rant where we go hands to the ruck and we have a wee sweary swear and we put the world to rights. Usually that's about an hour's worth of ranting, so generally worth popping along. It's £3 a month if you want to get yourself into the Richie Vernon Thunderdome, or if you so desire and you want to really support us and support the big man Dougie Donnelly himself, £5 a month gets you into the Dougie Donnelly Members Lounge. You don't actually support Dougie Donnelly, to be very clear. He's fine. He's got his golf gigs. But you £5 a month, you'll get your name read out on the podcast. I'll be honest, I forgot to check if there has been any £5 a month donations. So if there has, we're going to do a bumper Christmas special next week, and maybe we'll just put out a shout out to everyone that's a Dougie Donnelly Members Lounge at that point. But the other thing I need to, Cammy, reliably enforce, I need to again prompt. We are, for the Six Nations this year, you've got the option of coming along to 3 Brick events. We're partnered up with them to do some Six Nations watch parties. These are going to be quite interesting events. We're through the Biscuit Factory in Edinburgh. We're going to have basically a live podcast. So everything you see tonight, live. I'm sure, given the crowd that will be in and the beer will be flowing, I'm sure it'll be a wee bit live and uncut. Maybe a bit rude at times as well. But yeah, we're covering the main Six Nations games. The only one we're not doing is the Italy game for, it seems like a wee bit disrespectful to Italy, but that's fine. The four afternoons should be good.
Remember what happened the last time you mentioned the word uncut, John?
Yes, I do remember, Ian. I'm testing the water here. I'm just hoping you don't repeat your actions that night. Which, yes, we're not talking. Maybe mention that in the fateful nights. That was a good night. It was a good night. So I think that is the sales pitch stuff out the way. I'll take that banner down. I'll pop that one up because I fancy changing the banners up tonight. I'm getting swift at this now. So welcome, Andy. Andy always puts a wee message up just as we're mid-credits. Evening, Andy. I hope you're well, and welcome along to the show as per usual. So let's do some news first. There has been a bit of news has cropped on. Okay, let's not do some news yet. Let's do our premium drinks review. So those of you that follow the Scottish Rugby podcast on Twitter will have seen, I believe it was a picture from the Edinburgh team, Craig, is this right?
Yeah, it was, absolutely.
After the game at the weekend, and they were celebrating the result with either Tennent's Lager or Strongbow dark fruits. And Cammy may have suggested that this was a bit rubbish, that this was the case. And this has led to Twitter exploding on a scale unheard of. Would that be an accurate statement, guys?
I think you're pretty accurate with that one.
Yeah. The most upset people have been since we said that Blair Kinghorn was all right.
Yeah, So it's Blair Kinghorn being all right, and then it's dark fruit skate, right? So what we've decided to do, just as a starter for 10 tonight, we've decided to do a sort of live review of our premium products. So I have the dark fruits here. I see Ian and Johnny both have dark fruits here as well. Guys, have you partaken in Strongbow dark fruit cider before?
I'm an adult, John, so no.
Debatable, but okay. I accept what you're saying. Ian?
I have. I can't remember why, but
okay.
So
you're a vet. You're a vet. Yeah, you're a veteran of dark fruits. And Craig, I see you're just sticking to a grown man's drink. Are you not joining us in the dark fruitage tonight?
No, I've got Corona.
The beer, not the disease.
To be very clear to the audio listeners, Craig is holding up a bottle of Mexican lager beer.
Yes, absolutely. Other beers are available.
He's not a positive LTF test.
No, absolutely not. I had one of them this morning, and it wasn't positive. It was negative, which is lucky. No, I think obviously Edinburgh decided to take some of the cases of freebies that they get on this that was probably lying about the changing rooms from the Scotland games. I thought they'd take them with them, so that seems to be the way it was. Because I don't think they would get Dark Fruits or Tennant's Lager down in the posh part of London.
So
tastes like fizzy blackcurrant juice.
It does. Exactly. Like, see if you made a really weak Ribena and added a really crap fizzy wine to it. That's what it would taste like.
It's like buying own brand Vimto from B&M.
It's Robinson's apple and blackcurrant spritzer. That's what it is.
I mean, right. So being honest, right, as a youngling, I was a fan of adding blackcurrant to cheap premium cider. Cheap cider. That's what it done to my brain. That explains a lot. Yeah, it's all coming out now. So, I mean, this is like a little bit of nostalgia for me.
Yeah,
It tastes like super sweet diesel. Like obviously at the Ailstorm gig, at the Barrowlands, you could get a delicious pint of diesel.
I wondered who'd been signing stuff out my car.
So, I mean,
See
right.
the price of diesel these days.
So if we come to you first, Johnny. So we'll come on to the Tennant's Lager in a bit, obviously, as we progress through the podcast. But Strongbow Dark Fruits, where are we standing on this? On a scale of 1 to Finn Russell, where do we stand?
it's got its ups and downs. I think I've drank about half the can in the taste test and not really noticed. So that's a problem. Because it does just kind of taste like fizzy blackcurrant juice. So I can see it being quite dangerous, actually.
And
it is alcoholic, so
it is. Yeah, I mean, there's a significant alcohol content in there.
Oh, it's not only 4% or something. It's only 4%.
Okay, right. Not significant. All right, Captain Pugwash.
I tell you what, it's got a nasty aftertaste though. I think if I was drinking it all
does.
night, I'd start to not enjoy it fairly quickly.
Slightly metallic aftertaste.
Maybe it needs decanted from its can. Maybe draft's better.
Yeah. Maybe if you decant it from the can and put a wee bit of ice in it and put a wee straw in it, maybe that's what you can try for the patrons.
Well, if you have a wee trip down to the How of Fife, you'll get it on draft.
Yes, we have it on draft. That's true.
You know what?
Yeah.
Do you want me? I can go and test this theory out. I'm even going to put a slice of lemon in it. That's what I'm going to
Go for it. You do that. I'll come back to you. Come back to you later in the pod for your rating. Ian.
I'll just turn the camera off. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
That's fine. You go and do that. It's quite gassy though, to be very clear.
I was just about to say, I see myself using the mute button a lot tonight.
Exactly right. Yes. It certainly sits with you. So a little bit of fun. We'll come on to the other sponsors' product. I've got a few tinnies here as well, just to get onto that later. But let's move on to. So Ian's away to make a cocktail out of his dark fruits. I'll come to you first, Craig. So obviously, let's talk Edinburgh. We'll come on to the news later on. We've had a laugh about it. Let's talk Edinburgh. Let's get this out of the way.
Well, you've got to start with the good stuff first, don't you?
So apparently that's what the media folks say, yeah. So, European Challenge Cup victory over Saracens. Squeezed at home at the end, but fairly impressive. Like, I'm obviously just being a wee bit of a penis there, really. But an amazing result, actually. Like, very impressive. I was eating pizza when you guys were all texting, and I was like, "Oh, wow, okay, that's pretty cool." So
it's one of those situations that it's difficult because thank you very much to BT Sport and the European EPCR that we couldn't actually watch it live unless we paid about 40. I think it was a $5. I think for the game,
$4.99.
$4.99, and everyone's probably howling at me at the moment saying, if you're a real fan, you would have paid it. But But at that time, I didn't do it, unfortunately. So I've had to deal with the crappy highlights. But
Did the cult not get like a group discount?
we get it. It's like a Sky package, but you don't have the pint in the corner. It's just my face in shadow. But
the commentary sounds like it's from India.
Absolutely. Hey, listen. No comment.
Heard the commentary was pretty bad.
yeah. But it's one of those situations. Let's get past that bit and actually say that this is quite a significant win. We look at we've kind of tried. We've been talking that Edinburgh are moving away from the Richard Cockrell era, but we have retained certain things and. People have, a lot of people have tried to find excuses for Saracens, and they can't find the excuses because they were playing some of their significantly heavy-hitting players. First of all, WP Nell had the Lions prop who was supposed to be on the Lions tour this time, but got left behind, and he had him on toast. And then whenever he had enough and got tired and went off, the other tight head, the other loose head prop came on, and then got yellow carded for dropping a scrum and for constant infringements. I think Edinburgh have really kept a set piece dominance, and then having Savala at 10 has really opened my eyes a little bit to the I'm going to call him a youngster, but he's really shown a little bit of maturity there. And then Boffelli, who basically is going to get the keys to the city, I think, because a signing these both him and Mayano, sorry. They've been signings of really, really good signings for us. Over the break. So no, I thoroughly enjoyed A, the win, and B, the bragging rights. And with the latest news that's just happened, it looks like we've got a good chance of getting out of our group because Saracens have just had their next game handed to the other team because they can't play because of COVID. So it's an interesting one.
So that is a very interesting point as well, and the COVID situation obviously is looming large over quite a lot of rugby now. Saracens, as Craig rightly points out, Saracens have forfeited their match at the weekend against Montpellier. For having they had a COVID outbreak on Monday.
I think it's Poe, is it not? Because it's
Poe, yeah,
one they should have walked.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why are Montpellier in my head. What a strange place to be.
I'd fancy Montpellier to beat them as well, but I don't know if I fancy Poe's chances.
Yeah, Poe, sorry. Apologies, it is Poe. But yeah, so Saracens have had to forfeit that. Now, the cynic in me, Saracens are not adverse to, let's say, trifling with the rules.
What, cheating?
Yeah, outright. Right? And the cynic in me suggests that Saracens are back in the Premiership. They have quite a lot of fixtures coming up. And would it be convenient after a loss in the second tier European trophy? Would it be convenient for them to maybe just have some COVID and be able to forfeit that match and not need to expose their players to another game of rugby, especially when quite a lot of their players will be with England for the Six Nations? Maximising the rest time seems very pragmatic, and it does seem quite... the timing seems very specific, being that it was Monday. Are you... am I just being a grumpy old man, Johnny, or is that... Where do you see that?
Teams are definitely viewing the COVID situation differently. Like, Scarlets wouldn't have forfeited this week if their game had been in Llanelli instead of in Bristol. And I think Cardiff probably would have forfeited if their game had been in Toulouse and not in Cardiff. So I think we are kind of reaching a point where you have to, and it sounds really horrible, but you do have to kind of consider the motivation of people when it comes to why they either play or forfeit their games. And I don't know if maybe the teams themselves are the best people necessarily to be deciding that.
especially I suppose when you look at what's happened with the guys in South Africa who all in all good faith went out to play some rugby, and the situation changed very rapidly on them. And I think are they all back yet, or is there still people stuck in South Africa? Like it was
I
quite.
think the last couple came back this week. I think some of Cardiff's were coming back over the weekend, weren't they? Like while the game was on.
Yeah. It's not an easy situation, and I'll come to you next, Ian. It's a shame, isn't it, that sort of shadow of that, the positive tests at Saracens and the kind of spectre of coronavirus looms over what, like as we've said, is a monumental victory for a Scottish rugby side.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, as Craig pointed out, it was a pretty hard-hitting team. So, what happens after the fact should not be entered into it. I mean, as for suggesting, they've timed it, I can't see that. It's just numbers are rising rapidly, and maybe, I mean, would they really sort of forfeit a game just on the off chance that if it ends up hampering their chance at progressing, would they really do that? I don't think so. But no, I don't think we can use this to take anything. Stop trying to take stuff away from Edinburgh, John. Jesus.
I was going to say we haven't really heard both John and Johnny's and Ian's appreciation of Edinburgh's win at the weekend.
I think you'll find that I said it was an excellent win, and I was very impressed. I think that was my opening salvo on this. Was it not good, sir?
I told you at the time how very excited I was to see WP&L play 70 minutes and score a try as well.
And I'm fairly sure we all...
Seriously, WP&L is just like the levels of prop love are going sky high. He's almost fighting me. He's the original love interest in my life, but Pierre Schumann has kind of come in and shoved him out the way. But he's coming back there because he's a tight head, and that's the proper prop. Yeah, number three. You're only a prop if you've got a number 3 on your back.
The OP.
I think we all said on the group chat as well how impressed we were that Edinburgh managed to play an actual 10 and win a match. So I'm fairly sure that came out as well.
I did not say that.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, I would say I have to say this though. I'm really impressed with the backbone that Edinburgh are showing now. The ability to close games out, because that's the sort of game we would be winning at half time and then we'd lose at the end. And we've been doing this season, and I think and we can talk about the F1 further down the line, in the hands and the ruck side of things. But I was listening to a thing today, and they were saying that Max Verstappen is world champion because he believes he's better than everybody else. And I think Edinburgh have never had that. They've never had the belief. They've always talked a good game, but they've never actually believed that they can beat anyone on a good day. And they actually can, and they're starting to believe it, and the fans are starting to believe it, which is it's the hope that kills you,
We've seen that with the national team as well. Like,
yeah,
as the pro teams go, so goes Scotland, and we are in the position now the last 6 months or so where we're winning games that previously we would have lost, and I think that does stem from the fact that Glasgow and Edinburgh have started to manage to do that as well.
Yeah. The confidence breeds confidence, doesn't it? And it is interesting that I think there was a massive shift in Scottish rugby when Glasgow won the Pro 12. I think seeing Edinburgh get to finals and get to European, the latter stages of Europe, was good as well. And then, as you say, both pro clubs, Edinburgh in particular this season, have kicked on and really do look confident, and that will only be of benefit to the national side. Speaking of confidence, Ian Hay, I will come to you for the final point on Edinburgh. Can we discuss Magnus Bradbury, please?
Okay. I didn't see the game on Saturday because I was.
That's okay. I think it's safe to say that Magnus Bradbury is getting all the love from certain parts of the Edinburgh support. He has had a very good start to the season. Is he due another shot with Scotland?
Well, he's always in the broader picture. It's just about he needs to get himself front and centre by taking that shirt off of Fagerson. I thought Fagerson played pretty well on Saturday, and Glasgow
Fagerson was
losing it.
outstanding.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, he was good.
Bradbury, he's going to have to wait for Fagerson to play badly, or if he really shows up well in training, then he'll get his chance. It's all about taking his chances. But from what I've seen of him this year, and from what I hear from the other rumblings, apparently he's playing very well. So, good, because number 8's a stereotypically sort of problem position for Scotland. So if everyone's playing well, for that area, that's nice.
Hypothetically, would it be peak Magnus Bradbury, given that he got the Edinburgh captaincy and then fell on his face? Would it be peak Magnus to finally make all the form that gets him that Scotland 8 shirt and Jack Dempsey takes it off him?
I was going to say that you get injured within about 5 minutes of the first Six Nations game.
I mean, that would be very Scotland, full stop, wouldn't it? You finally get what you need. But no, I think like Bradbury has been going very well, and actually I've watched back quite a lot of the performances that people have been maybe waxing lyrical about online, and he's doing well. He's carrying very, very hard, and it's looking. He looks on form, and that's what you need. And his timing is form really well. If he can continue that through this last run of fixtures, he'll be very much in the reckoning for a Six Nations squad. So, well played to him. So I'm going to have to dart fruits a sec. 2 seconds.
Well, I'll take
deadly, man.
That's what you have to look at, and I appreciate the love for Jack Dempsey at the moment that everybody seems to be dancing about and singing about, but it depends on how long that's going to last, and also, do we really want someone who played for Australia who is no longer playing for them because somebody better has come along to come in and unseat? I'm not just talking about Magnus Bradbury, but unseat Matt Fagerson, unseat all the other Scotland caps that are already playing very, very well at the back row. And I don't think it's something that we can take lightly. I think Magnus is there. He's been sent home early a couple of times from Tunis sessions, so I can understand why he may not get the chance. But he's, as I've always said, if they're not going to get a Scotland shirt on their back, I'll be quite happy that they're with Edinburgh and performing at Edinburgh.
Yeah, you would definitely take that just now, the way the form he's in. I was going to challenge you and say, how long does it last? That's the story of Magnus Bradbury's career, but so far. But anyway, he's in great form, and we'll no doubt see him in the Scotland squad for the Six Nations coming up. So congratulations, Craig. Well done to Edinburgh. We are all very impressed, and we're very proud of you. And our rivalry that is all a bit kid on is put aside to doth our
Well, I've worked very, very hard with the team, and I appreciate your well wishes.
We put all of that aside to universally laugh at Maro Itoje.
Exactly. I mean, had it been a nice English club, no, actually no. It was a great result. He's done well.
I was just so disappointed that Farrell wasn't playing. I would have loved to have seen his wee sad face.
Oh, and then hear him do a wee interview afterwards. Do they do interviews in the Challenge Cup? Is that a thing? Do they have on-site?
I don't know. To be perfectly honest, from what I can tell, everybody that's out there doesn't seem to think it exists at the moment, so that's fine. We'll be quite happily going under the radar and taking the silverware at the end of the season.
Well, we hold our breath and pray that is the case, Craig. Of course.
Yeah, it'll be one more cup that Glasgow haven't got.
Now, knowing fine well, it's a shame that Cockerell's not still there because I would have put good money on you getting to the final and absolutely choking. So,
I probably would have joined you, to be perfectly honest.
So we'll laugh. We'll move over the M8 just now. We'll just get Europe out the way. So the I'm not going to say the Big Boys Cup, the Champions Cup, Glasgow, La Rochelle. A close match. 2013 it finished. Glasgow played well. La Rochelle are not a bad side in the slightest. They've got some very, very talented players. Will Skelton looked like he had eaten Will Skelton and then done some press ups with Will Skelton. He was an absolute menace. But overall, I mean, I think everyone was after the Edinburgh Saracens game. I think everyone was kind of like Scottish rugby had its high that weekend. Finn Russell had torn Northampton a new one. And we were all kind of thinking, could Glasgow just complete the perfect weekend? And no, they were close. But
don't forget, Johnny Gray got a hat trick.
Johnny Gray did get a hat trick as well.
Yeah, and he still doesn't know how he managed to get it. I saw the interview afterwards, and he was asked specifically, Johnny, what did you do differently to get that hat trick? He kind of looked and went, I don't know. It just came along.
Got the ball put in my hand.
Yeah.
Take that.
It's like the scene in The Waterboy when they're trying to work out what actually drives Bobby Boucher, and it's like, Johnny, what we want you to do is tackle the ball. Tackle
and fuel.
Yeah, Glasgow were. I watched the game. I've watched the game back since, and the same old, like, Glasgow were very impressive, but the same old inaccuracies were creeping in. The same old, making chances there, where a confident side converts those chances. And I guess, like, Johnny, I'll come to you first. You had commented in the group chat as well regarding the selection and perhaps the bench in particular. What for you went? What went right at the weekend? And aside from the inaccuracies, is there anything Glasgow can do to really match up to a very good side like that?
Well, to have the ball in our hands and be attacking their line, going for a draw after the clock's gone red, is not a joke. Like, that's a team that lost the final last year. This isn't, like, we have to keep in mind that this is one of the very best teams in Europe.
And they played Gash as well.
So that's enough of that language, Craig, and I'll put you in your box.
Okay,
We'll stop being nice about Edinburgh. Giving away 15 penalties continues to be the problem.
Yeah.
And like we said this last week about Glasgow, we've said it till we're blue in the face about Glasgow. We are in a position now where we were within a score and within one attacking opportunity of drawing against or beating a team that was in the final of the Champions Cup last year. If we hadn't given away 15 penalties, we'd have been in a much better position.
It was away from home as well.
Exactly, yeah. It was down there. And I don't understand the 6-2. I know they're a big team, but how many times have we talked about how you don't fight fire with fire and you don't go to South Africa and try and outmuscle the Springboks? La Rochelle are a big old team. Will Skelton's a massive unit. We might have done better to try and play around them rather than play with them. So I wasn't really sure how the 6-2 was beneficial.
Is that so, Ian? I'll come at you. That seems to be something that Scottish rugby, we have a habit of doing this, where we almost think it's a good idea to, like, almost we talk about it a lot. Let's play them at their own game, and it seems, given that Scottish rugby has, like, I think to most onlookers now, Scottish rugby has a brand of rugby that is, Edinburgh are now joining the party and playing that brand of rugby as well. And it's great to see fast attacking play, but also a pragmatism in defence just now. There's a Scottish rugby has a brand of rugby, and yet every time we come up against a bigger team, and I'm exclusively talking about Glasgow here, I'm not saying that Edinburgh necessarily have done this yet, Scotland do it as well. We talk about playing them at their own game or matching them at their own game, and it just seems strategically a bit mad, really.
Yeah, it's sort of like, playing to your weaknesses or try to bolster your weaknesses rather than playing to your core strength. I just thought it was a bit strange that if you are only going to have one back on the bench other than a scrum half, that you pick one who can only play at standoff, really. And even then, I think some of my fellow panel members might even say he can't even play at standoff.
Who say that?
What I think is weird is if you are going to go for a 6-2 split, there's a lot of guys that only came on for like 10 minutes, like just over 10 minutes. If you're going to have that split, bring the power on earlier so that they've got more time to sort of tire out the other pack. I didn't think there was just a couple of silly mistakes. Things like when Ross Thompson, just after when Rory Darge was in the bin, Ross Thompson not hoofing it downfield and instead getting caught.
Yeah, take the step
penalty.
In.
Yeah, because that's like if he just smacks that into the stand, it means that they can't take a quick line out. Runs that clock right down, means that Darge coming back on instead. It's another 3 points down. Plus, you're going to get the ball back from the restart most likely. So, just churn it over a couple of times, then boot it out. You get Darge back on the pitch.
Am I remembering rightly that they scored 13 points while Darge was in the bin?
10. I think it was just 10. Yeah.
I mean that's the game there, isn't it? Really, it's again Johnny's
for a 7-point game. Yeah.
Johnny's point regarding discipline. I mean, putting 10 points in a team whilst a player's in the bin, that 10 points will generally get you quite far to a victory if you're a good side. So, you can't allow these good teams to get that far in front of you. And I think Glasgow, the positives for me, the fight that they showed, particularly in defence, was really good. Unfortunately, as you say, discipline just... I think the frustration comes from the discipline aspect has been a thing for years now, and I've criticised Danny Wilson because actually I think that if you step in and you've got the right people involved, you could probably curb a lot of that. And I noticed certain penalties that we were giving away the previous weekend, the offsides and the extra roll and things like that. We didn't give away as many of those, but it was penalties for other daft things, and it's getting quite frustrating. And you just had to look. Like, we gave away a penalty on just outside their 22, and you almost knew you could track what was going to happen. You're thinking, right, they're going to kick to touch. They're going to win the line out. They're going to maul. We're then going to come in the side. We're going to concede another penalty. They're then going to kick to the corner. We're going to concede another penalty from that line out, and then they're going to scrum us to death. And it was just like you could watch the steps. It's really you can't compete to that.
I thought Carly was a wee bit blow happy.
Oh yeah.
The very first penalty against Ollie Kebble, I'm not sure what he's given that for. John Barkley seemed to think it was for going off his feet, but he wasn't going to go off his feet at all. It must have been. I was like, you couldn't see. I didn't get a decent replay, but it was at the angle that he's come in there.
It was for being a Sum 41 tribute band. That's what it was for.
I'd say that's worthy in that case.
The thing is, though, you've got to look at what Glasgow are suffering from, what Edinburgh suffered for the last couple of years. If you look at who was on the field and who was on the bench, you couldn't bring the people off the bench onto the field and say they're going to do the same job.
Yeah.
Turner, I've been Turner's biggest critic, but Turner was on fire on Saturday. He was everywhere, wanting the ball, looking to do something with the ball. Stain was if he wasn't getting the ball, he was going to find it. Dempsey was going forward very, very strong. Matt Fagerson, if he wasn't tackling someone who's trying to rip the ball out of someone's hand, it was, but if they go off, same with Ollie Kebble. Ollie Kebble was, took an injury, played on till the end of the half, who replaces him? Well, they bring on Jamie Batty, and no disrespect to Jamie Batty because he's a Scotland internationalist, but he's not Ollie Kebble. So
I think he's not a Scotland internationalist just now for that reason. He has a step down. That's the thing. He's a step down from Ollie Kebble.
Who isn't a Scottish internationalist at prop? Come on.
yeah. But if you look at
Darryl Murphy.
Yeah, if you look at this, I think you're right. That's the one thing I was saying to myself when I was watching the game was the 6-2 split was wrong, absolutely wrong. Especially when you've got just George Horn and you've got Nanek, Bogbrush sitting on the
slam dunk the funk.
Aye. Now, don't get me wrong. Dunky Weir has done some fantastic things for Edinburgh and some fantastic things for Glasgow, but you can't have him on the bench as your only real back replacement. You just can't. So I think it was poor selection, to be perfectly honest.
Yep. No, they didn't do themselves any favours, but a losing bonus point. I think realistically, Glasgow have never really seen. European qualification is in this new format, this very strange, I don't really know what's going on format. Glasgow it was always going to be an ask to get qualification anyway. Massive game at the weekend coming up now against Exeter. Johnny Gray and Stuart Hogg coming back to Scotstoun. Well, maybe will we touch on the let's do a little bit of the touching. Is that appropriate? No, let's do
I thought there was going to be a very professional segue into the news there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm choosing my words carefully.
Let's just before you go to the news, let's just consider the whole fact that Edinburgh beat Saracens at the weekend, and just remind ourselves of that, and then you can crack on all you want.
When we get dropped down a level into the Challenge Cup, we'll get a chance to beat Saracens as well. So don't you worry.
I just want to post this up. Christian Cooper. I mean, I'm not sure who this is targeted at. If it's me, bless you, you're hilarious.
You're brown nosing. You're Edinburgh brown nosing.
If it's Craig, the membership fee for the cult is about $10. If it's either the other two of them, they're not going to notice. So
that's one of the founding points on the manuscript is glory hunting. So I don't know what you're talking about.
I love the idea of an Edinburgh Rugby cult. It genuinely would be called a manuscript as well.
It certainly would. Yeah, absolutely.
Just to be clear, those on audio, I've popped up a comment from Christian Cooper who says simply "Glory Hunter!" ! We're not sure who that's targeted towards.
I don't care if we're playing Saracens in the Challenge Cup or in the European Cup. We're still playing a double or triple European Cup champions, even though they were cheating, and they still have half the team that we're cheating with came and played Edinburgh, and we're away from home playing a cheating team, and we still beat them. So, Johnny, you can say as much as you want. I'm just going to sit here and be as smug as I possibly can.
That was even more successful than I thought it was going to be. Thanks, Craig.
Right. Moving swiftly on, I'll stop talking about touching on things. Let's move on to, as we said, the news. So Glasgow have got Exeter at the weekend. There was a press release from Big Al himself. Did every one of you read the press release in his voice? It was absolutely in Big Al's booming voice. So Exeter have been basically
even moved things off the mantelpiece in case it shook and fell over.
The baritone just absolutely roars. So Exeter have been politely informed to take their headdresses and take their tomahawk chop and stick them right where they want to. Apparently the Glory Hunter was directed to me, bless you.
I thought as much.
It's okay. Yeah, I've got my racing top on. We're all good.
Christian, you're welcome in the cult anytime, mate.
So Glasgow have come out and stated that I've got the statement here. Al Kellock's come out and said basically after consultation with supporters representatives and the Native American community, competition organisers and Exeter Chiefs themselves. Glasgow is a welcoming club that celebrates inclusivity and diversity, and make a call for action that we want to live up to these values and stand up for the views of our supporters. So yeah, they've encouraged, told Exeter not to turn up with headdresses, not to do the tomahawk chop, which, interestingly enough, the open letter that Cammy and yourself, Ian, I think you were involved in writing that.
No, that was all Cammy.
Was it just Cammy? Sorry.
Yeah,
Cammy wrote the open letter. It got a little name check from Al as well. So good to see the work we've put in as a collective. Obviously, we've talked about this issue a number of times in the podcast, and I'm sure in Hands of the Ruck it might get a wee more sweary mention. But yeah, so great outcome, Johnny, and we're really, really pleased as Glasgow fans and probably as Scottish rugby fans to see us taking a stand there.
Yeah, fantastic. Proud of the club, proud of the work that everyone's done. Exeter Chiefs for Change, obviously the main driving force, and we have to say that the other week when they kind of started to trail that they might be considering rebranding, I think almost every rugby podcast that has brought this up said how pleased we were that Exeter Chiefs for Change have managed to carry so much decorum through the whole thing when the likes of us have just basically been offensive about Exeter. So they deserve a lot of credit for that, and they've done a really good job. It was nice to see Big Al kind of taking notice of Cammy's letter, and I don't think anyone's got any doubt that the club have done the right thing. I think it's great to see, and really, really pleased with it.
Well, you say that. Yes. So we've got Alan McDonald, regular listener, friend of the pod. It's brought out more gammon than a 70s buffet too. And do you know,
a cocktail stick with pineapple and cheese.
We will definitely come on to that in Hands of the Ruck, Alan, if you're hanging about for that. Yes, there has been. I was surprised, Ian, I'll come to you, with the reaction of some Glasgow fans to this. I know you're always going to have a minority in any support that just want to bleat about, the leftist wokies that are taking away my freedoms to, enjoy a bit of casual racism. But I don't know if it's just they've got a nice loud voice at this point, but some of the forums have been quite... there's been quite a lot of gammon getting its out in.
Aye, and they all use the exact same phrases, and they don't listen to a single word that you say in response. The most important part of Al Kellock's statement is that they've been in touch with Native American communities, and for some reason nobody seems to be listening to the fact that it's been a 50-year campaign. It's not just us and Exeter Chiefs for Change in the last couple of months or whatever that have said, that you shouldn't use Native American sports brand, and it's been an ongoing fight for 50 odd years. And because the people who are directly affected by it are saying, look, can you stop this, please? It's not on. That is the main thing that should be listened to. And there's a sizable number of them now that have said it's not on, and that, therefore it's not on. So it's really disappointing that you keep just seeing these same complaints, and it's like banging your head off a brick wall.
I was amazed at some of the things, especially the whole thing about should Glasgow now drop the Viking helmet with the horns on it, because it's like, hang on a minute, it's the Vikings haven't come from the Anno Domini year to come and write us a letter and complain that they're upset by Glasgow wearing Glasgow's symbol with a helmet with horns on it. They haven't written and said, please don't use it. They've not had a campaign for years to say, please don't do this. It's a joke. They don't. But the problem you have is the gammons in their mind think they're right, and they won't listen to anything else. Ian, I was amazed at that. I was totally agree with you. The lack of ability to see sense about what they're saying is just amazing.
Did you bring up? Sorry, I nipped off to deal with some childcare there. was I assume you brought up examples of where Glasgow fans have been slightly out of line with this. Did you happen to go on to, there's a Glasgow forum, and there was one guy who listed what can only be described as a number of different things that were complete. So the Viking helmet got mentioned because that seems to be everybody's go-to just now.
We
It's not
just
even a
deal
Viking
with this
helmet.
right now. It's not a Viking helmet. The
It's
helmet
not a
has
Viking
got
helmet.
horns.
No.
Clyde the Coup has horns that come out the top of his helmet, but the
Because he's
Warriors
a
badge
coup.
hasn't got any horns on it. Exactly. Clyde's a coup, he's got horns. So his horns come out the top of his helmet. The badge hasn't got any horns on it. It's a total fabrication.
Here you
But
go.
the
This is what,
the thing is, though, that Glasgow are celebrating our heritage.
Mhm.
I'd see the
Yeah.
point. You know, if this was if this was if this was I forget what to call them, but the emerging community, they had their own team. They can have, headdresses and everything if they want. That's up to them. But it's almost like saying that Edinburgh Rugby can't have their players wearing red cords. It's like that's their heritage. They can do that.
they should
It's
definitely do that. So
It's crazy.
this guy went after the warrior and said that it's actually iconography similar to a white supremacist, which someone promptly puts out that the picture is blue and black. I'm sure that doesn't go down well with white supremacists. He went after the Clyde crane, the Titan, saying that it's a symbol of the slave trade, despite the fact it was built 127 years after the slave trade. So you get the idea. There's some people that
Who
are
was
just.
this idiot?
It was some absolute.
Was it a
Zoom-bot.
Glasgow fan or was it an Exeter fan?
We believe it was an infiltrator to the forum. There's occasionally forum members at Glasgow forum. Occasionally people come on and they're on the wind up. But this person was particularly verbose in his wind up, and spectacularly inaccurate as well. The slave trade was mentioned quite a lot actually in Glasgow's part in the slave trade, and it's. I think we will talk about this more.
And none of that has got anything to do with the club's branding.
Exactly.
Right.
It's
Street
like
names. Maybe some of the street names should be changed.
But that's
Right,
a Glasgow issue. It's not a Glasgow Warriors
I know.
issue.
It's like Al Kellogg. Well, Al Kellogg could just reach up and rip down the signs. We're not having that.
Yeah,
We'll call this
I'd
Pete,
like to be-
Pete Holland Avenue. That's it.
In Russell Place. Yeah.
Fuzzy Street.
Hang on. I think the Weeds would have a few problems with that, having Howard Fife team players' names. The next thing you'll be having a Johnny McGinty's Avenue, or
Hey, you said it, not me.
Johnny McGinty's back close.
And there is the pod title right there.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Surely
So
there's something about the potholes in that place, by the way. It's shocking.
Can I just remind everyone that we're not on the hands in the ruck
yeah, I know.
section
Please,
yet,
guys.
please?
It's all right, man. It's just like double entendres. It's like carry on, Scottish Rugby.
Yeah,
Vlog.
we're basically
Cammy's not here. It's fine.
we're a cameo on film. So just you quite like that, Johnny. So to be clear, I'm on the second option for the sponsor's product at Edinburgh now.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
I do recommend that a wee dark fruits with slice of lemon and ice, by the way. But what I will say is, do not spill this on a light-coloured couch. He said something on a light grey couch. That is going to
It does have a radioactive. It does have radioactive purple about it, doesn't it? So I mean, it's as bad as you would think. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, we've all been there. At least it's cold. I've chilled it for about a month to make sure it was cold. So, but yeah, so let's move on to the last wee bit of news that's come out, and I think this is a great way to end the pod tonight for the casual listener. We'll go on.
What is that Jamie Hodgson and Marshall Sykes have extended their stay at Edinburgh?
Have they? I had not come across that yet, Craig. Is that
Yes,
the case?
that's
That's fabulous news. Considering you are all
them both and signed Sam Skinner this week.
Yeah,
Well,
Sam Skinner's not a done deal yet.
It's not
it's not
confirmed yet.
confirmed yet. No, it's
Okay.
not confirmed yet.
Was that one of the pundits suggesting where people were going the same way that Stuart Hogg was going to both Racing and Glasgow at the same time?
I think that would be one behind a paywall, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's not give them any more. Well, that's really good news, actually, Craig, for you guys. Two very, very promising second rows who, with again, the only consideration is game time. You know, how does that fit in when you've got King Gilchrist?
Well, the thing is, and this is no disrespect to Ben Toulis, because I know that he's really. Yeah, well, Ben is really going through the mill at the moment, and he's dealing with a lot of injury issues, and a quick and swift recovery. We all wish him, but to be honest, I think that his time is up at Edinburgh, and I think you bring in some now a Scotland international. They're both Scotland internationals, am I right? I think they both have caps now. You've got Grant Gilchrist there, who is getting further longer in the tooth, who's a great line-out operator. He can coach these guys into becoming just as good as him. And then you've got Sam Skinner, if he gets signed, coming up, who will be, a really, really good operator for Edinburgh. I can see what's happening. I can see what they're doing,
Yeah, it seemed to be building a strong basis for that, again, for that set piece. With the other side of the M8, Ian, with Richie Gray starting to... Well, I mean, he looked interesting at the weekend, but there hasn't been a great amount of enthusiasm for rugby from Richie, it seems, this season. With him getting quite old, Sam Skinner going to Edinburgh seems a bit like... SRU like to distribute the resources, and obviously the players have a say in it, but that does seem like Skinner seems like a Glasgow signing.
Yeah, I suppose in terms of personnel, because we are a bit, we've even got Rob Harley as like third option at lock, and he's not a lock. But Skinner is again another one of these hybrid sorts. I don't know. Who else have we got?
You've just signed a bloody great South African for next season.
We have signed a 6'10" South African monster. Yeah, that's true.
So that's the Richie.
Kieran McDonald is in
Lewis
there.
Lewis Bean. I quite like him. He's all right. Like
he's a workman-like second row, isn't he?
Yeah,
an honest job, but you're not going to see much excitement from him. He's just going to.
No, you're not going to get Nakaraba offloads, are you?
But maybe this is a smokescreen, and you're going to see Sam Skinner in a Glasgow top. You never know.
Maybe it is all. Maybe it's actually so you get Skinner and we get Hogg and Russell back. Maybe that's what it's all about.
Or the other way around. You get Skinner and we get
maybe,
Hogg.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
We've got 15s anyway, so we're not that bothered about it.
You've got 115.
We've got a couple of 15s. We've got Immelman as well. So
that's true. Actually, yeah. You've got half a 10s.
Edinburgh getting Hogg to play at 10. That's all.
honestly, I would absolutely genuinely. I would pull up. I would get an Edinburgh season ticket if that happened.
I would actually join some of the Glasgow forums to have a wee look to see what they've got to say for it if Hogg joined Edinburgh. That'd be brilliant.
Feet up, like in the goddamn stadium. I would put my feet up and just absolutely chortle all day if Hogg was playing 10. It would be magnificent. So. But let's get to the most important news. Thank you for that little segment. I was not aware of that news, Craig, so thank you. That is actually really a bit of business for you. Well done. Listen to me being all polite and stuff. It's like...
Yeah, I try my best. I was also involved in the signing as well. It's true, yeah.
That's good, yes. Yeah.
I'm noticing, sitting over there.
I like to think that you and your like 12 other fans do have a real connection to the club and are part of all that. So I like to give you a shout out.
Yeah. Good luck with Exeter this weekend.
Fine, they're all going to get Rona anyway. It'll be fine. So Pete Horn. Pete Horn has retired, or is in the
Oh.
midst of retiring.
This would be a stand up on your chair moment, wouldn't it, John, if we didn't nearly kill ourselves last time?
I mean, I've got a rotating chair, but I think I could probably get that chair over here in a sec. We'll get there in a second. But so, yeah, Pete Horn, the most capped back for Glasgow with 182 appearances.
Oh, the wrong side.
I was going to say, Craig, I could stand up because although I don't have my how top on, I do have my how bottoms on.
Yeah, we'll get there in a sec. We'll get to the standing up in a second, boys. Just calm your try to give the boy a bit of respect, and use it all like, let's just stand up, get it out of me. Calm your beans,
I'm not standing up for anyone.
Like, Craig, you might need to get some prep on getting standing up, mate. You get started, we'll sort this, right? Alright, so 182 appearances for Glasgow, obviously won the Pro 12 in 2015, 43 caps for Scotland, played both 10 and 12. Interestingly, for Glasgow, played 10, 12, 13 and 15, which if anyone remembers his performance at 15, let's say, makes Johnny McGinty look like a competent fullback. It was utterly brutal.
It's like a world-class Lucette.
I know, sorry, mate. Sorry. There's no other fullbacks here, let's be honest, right? So no, I mean, an amazing career, and I think the biggest tribute that had been paid to Pete certainly from the supporter base was there was a comment earlier on that said basically for a spell Glasgow and Scotland played better with Pete Horn on the side. He made those guys, particularly at 12, he made guys around him look good, and he was a very, very clever rugby player, wonderful left foot on him, a great kicking option, great distributor. Before Finn Russell arrived, he was probably the best passer of a ball in Scottish rugby, which is no mean feat, and just a great career. And I think we've laughed and we've joked about him over the years as because of his versatility, because he gets slotted in at 10, and we know, Ian, I'll come at you in a minute about your views on Pete Horn, but he was always an emergency option at 10, and he done a job. But a great career, and certainly he'll be fondly remembered by the Glasgow guys. He's off to coach at the Ayrshire Bulls, or he has been coaching at the Ayrshire Bulls, and he'll be continuing with that. So, staying in Scottish rugby, George Horn was quoted as saying he's got one of the keenest rugby minds you'll see, and is certainly going to look to be a coach and maybe head coach of somewhere. So, don't be surprised if he's winging his way to a Glasgow or Edinburgh at some point very soon. Ian, one of the worst 10s for Glasgow ever, the way.
I don't know, man. You've seen the villains gallery.
Brandon
Thompson.
I was going to say Brandon Thompson. What the hell?
This thing, like whenever I've slagged him at 10, it's because he was such a better 12, like a top class. There's a reason he got 43 Scotland caps. There's a reason why Finn Russell said that he's his favourite 12 to have, because he's like you said, he's incredible game awareness. He'd look up and give options. For somebody who seemed to throw quite a few notable intercept passes, thing was he had that. He had good awareness. I think maybe sometimes he just tried to be, the Scottish ambitious way. Like you said, an excellent passer of the ball, and a tremendous work rate. You'd quite often see him in the top tackler stats. And I remember a game where I think he got pelters. It was when we were playing Fiji, and he butchered a pass to Tommy Seymour. And people were giving him pelters for that. But then, like 2 minutes later, Simon Radradda bursts round outside Alex Dunbar, who chases back 60 metres to haul up the deck, Pete Horn. That's the kind of thing you'd get from him. And I think he'll make an outstanding coach. Obviously, being at Bulls, apparently he'd made the deal in March, but because he still wanted to keep playing to the end. Well, keep playing for a while. Pat MacArthur stayed on as head coach, but I think he'll do. I think he'll end up having a really fantastic, hopefully as good a coaching career as he did a playing career. Did you ever hear, Phil and Johnny?
Yeah,
your mate's tribute, right?
I know Phil and Johnny. Yeah.
I think it was one of them said. I can remember which one of them said. when Dunbar was injured, then Bennett was injured. He said, "We'll never win the Pro 12 with Pete Horn and Richie Vernon."
And Richie Vernon at
played
12 and
at
13.
centre.
That's right.
And I think it was Johnny said, "If that happens, I will get a tattoo of your face on my calf," and he never did. So
Well,
let's just call it right here.
Let's get that sorted. Craig, I'll come to you next. So Pete Horn had his detractors in the Scottish. He wasn't the biggest man to certainly play rugby at 12, particularly in the era he was playing in. But your club that both you and Johnny represent have got a lot to be proud of.
And the words kind of fail me at this moment in time, because we are incredibly proud of him. And I'm not going to speak for Johnny, because I think Johnny's got something to say on it. But again, someone who gives back to the club that he came from, someone who he's quoted in saying that he's been very blessed. He's been able to play his entire rugby career with his best friend, and now with his brother as well. I think he may not have been one of the forerunners, but in Scotland, I feel he was one of the forerunners of having a second distributor. And no longer, it kind of showed that you don't have to have a massive 12 to burst through and smash people. You've got a second 12, a second distributor, and a good ball handling and smart 12 can get you a hell of a lot of tries, a lot of yards gained, and I think he has done that, and I think he came at the right time for Tooney. And anybody who has that many caps for his club should be celebrated, and any negativity that has come along the way should be forgotten about, because he's been an outstanding servant for his family. Have been outstanding servants for Howe of Fife, along with him and his brother. He's been an outstanding servant for Glasgow, and he's with 43 caps for Scotland.
43 for Scotland. Yep.
An outstanding Scotland player, and very, very proud of him. Very, very proud of him.
Yeah. No, I think I hear to that. Johnny, you'll get the final word then on George, on Pete Horn, before we all stand up in our chairs and salute him.
I think Craig's absolutely right. He's a great servant. He's someone that we see a lot of around the local area. He's always giving back to the club. And he's that kind of person, and I think the thing that's always kind of got my goat about the detractors that he gets is because he's that kind of person. All the negative things that people have ever said about Pete is because Glasgow or Scotland would be in a bind and say, "Pete, can you do this?" And Pete would say yes. So, like, if he's not the best 10 in the world, he's not a 10. He was a phenomenal 12. And then the country or the club would be stuck and turn around and say, "Pete, could you play 10?" And he'd say, "Yeah, of course, no problem." So for people to then like start to give him pelters because he's not playing well at 10, it's like, well, okay, who else was going to do it? No one volunteered. We needed a 10 and he went to play 10. And that's kind of, you hear from around the club, that's exactly what Pete's personality is like. If someone needs him to do something, then he'll do it. And so it's always kind of annoyed me that people then turn around and go, "Oh, he was garbage." It's like, well, okay, nobody else has volunteered to do it. And that Fiji game that Ian mentioned, that always sticks in my memory as well, because that was one of those games where, when Pete was in at 12, you knew what you were getting. Yep. And he was a phenomenal tackler that day. He stopped everything that came near him. And that's the sort of player that Scotland needed at that time, especially because I think he had Finn at 10 and Hugh Jones at 13. And so Pete was there to kind of be like, "All right, I'll tackle this, I'll tackle that, I'll tackle this, I'll tackle that. I'll take it a couple of yards. I'll let these guys go on around me." And then the other thing I think people kind of forget is that 2019 sort of time, World Cup time, the warm-ups around that, when we had George coming off the bench, Pete became a real attacking threat playing beside George. Because they just kind of have this connection. They've got a move that they used to do loads. They did it against Wales, and they did it against either France or Georgia. The chip over the back of the line out.
You could see them.
Yeah, you could see them do it. So George would just kind of look around at Pete, and then you saw it come. George would take off the top of the line out, take one step, and chip it over, and Pete was there every time. And that's the sort of thing that like you can't really replicate. And he came on for a sort of 6-month period at the end of 2019 with George, and like he was great at that. And I think he'll be missed a lot more than people realise, to be honest.
Funny, I was going to say one of his best games at 10, I thought, was playing with George against Munster, and they did that exact move. I think they had penalty advantage, and they did the chip over the top. Because I think those two, Pete had his best games with George at 9. It's because they know how each other play. So it was that wasn't the sort of square and a round hole. That was these two know each other inside out. It's like this worked perfectly. But sorry, but yes.
The thing is, so I also remember one of my favourite tries. In fact, his shirt from that game hangs in the club, and it was the World Cup game against South Africa, and he picked and went, I think, over the top of a rock.
Was that not Australia?
Was it Australia? Was it Australia?
Yeah, so yes, that move that Scotland done at that time. Gordy Reid was very prolific at it as well, where he was sort of looked like he joined the ruck but hadn't bound, and they just go, and he scored a try from it. Yeah, it was such intelligence.
He did that against Wales as well.
He did,
yeah. I think the main thing with Pete is that people will not realise how much he's going to be missed until he's not there anymore.
And certainly, like having him not be in the Glasgow Warrior shirt this season, you look back on these performances, and as you rightly say, he won the Pro 12, was just phenomenal, phenomenal that season, and he'll be missed. I'm going to get my chair, and we can. Right, that's right. 2 seconds.
I'm waiting on this falling here.
Yeah, he's swapping chairs. That's cheating.
Oh, there you go. That's cheating.
Oh, fuck. My cord's kind of stuck. There we go.
I'm just gonna show my badge.
I will tell you what. I'll stand up because I've only got my bottoms on. Look, hang on. See
this is the ridiculousness of this podcast. Oh, Captain, my Captain. There we go. Right. I'll just sit on this one. Put that back down. Yeah, thank you, Pete Horn, for all your service. Right, that is goodbye from the first part of the podcast. So thank you for joining us, guys. I'll let the guys say goodbye because apparently I should do that. Apparently, just paying for the Patreon does not mean that I don't give you the privilege of saying goodbye. So it's goodbye just now from myself and from Craig, Ian, and John.
Bye.
Ciao.
And I'll just quickly remember how to do this.
Paul, you remembered how to do that. I'm going to go get a beer.
should shuffle papers like at the end of the news. I feel like I should have...
Yeah, dim the lights. Hang on. Can I do that?
Yes. Good.